you were in person at one point for Shedeur Sanders' minicamp, Cleveland Browns rookie minicamp, and I wanted to get your biggest takeaways from seeing Shedeur Sanders, really get after it in Browns minicamp. I know it's just shirts and shorts here, but what were your biggest takeaways from seeing Shedeur Sanders, get after it? First time seeing him practice for the Cleveland Browns. What were your biggest takeaways?
All the talk about the circus is just not there yet, because it seemed like a regular rookie minicamp with a few more cameras. I thought he threw the ball well. I thought the best thing for him, and I'm not saying, look, I've coached my son for years, so I'm kind of partial to Dion. I don't get into that. I think Dion helped get his son to the NFL. And the way he did it, you can question it all you want. His son's playing in the NFL now. But it is going to be good to be away from Dion for a minute and earn it this way, because nobody can question it then. And I think if you know the Browns' history, and I've lived in Ohio most of my life, this is the wildest quarterback room of all, because you have Flacco, you have Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson probably won't be ready. Shedeur's going to have a chance to start at some point. I really believe that. I think he will start. I don't know when. I think it's an interesting, and they're going to keep Dylan Gabriel too. Yep. So you're going to have Dylan Gabriel, a third-round pick. Teams don't cut third-round picks. And Shedeur, who I thought looked pretty good at camp, and reports vary. You know how that works. You and I could watch the same 20 throws and report two completely different things. I have a feeling you and I would actually be closer than that. But, I thought he looked good. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm actually a Shedeur fan. I think, he took a lot of hits in college. He did elevate a program from 1 to 9 wins. He's done nothing but throw touchdowns and not very many interceptions through his career. And, when you question his behavior on the field, sometimes I would just tell people, man, you haven't drove 4 13-year-olds to lacrosse practice like I do. They're a little bit different than we were back in the 90s, all right?
Yep. Definitely. And I cover Colorado over with the Colorado alumni Matt McChesney over at the 060 podcast, and I love Shedeur. I'm a really big fan of Shedeur. I thought him going in the NFL, he needs to go somewhere where he can be coached, where he's away from his father, because I think him playing for his father for so long, he's an unbelievable player. There are some bad habits that he can be coached out of as a quarterback, especially going in the NFL. I think now going in Cleveland, having Joe Flacco as a mentor, 40-year-old mentor, won a Super Bowl, somebody who's been there and done that, and recently has success, leading the Browns to a playoff run. I thought that was so great, and it'll definitely help him in Kevin Stefanski's system. I don't care about all this noise of, his on or on the field antics. I played football. I want my quarterback to have ego. I want my quarterback to, not be afraid to, take a chin shot and get up and spit blood out of his $100,000 grill. That's how I feel about Shedeur Sanders. And my biggest takeaway watching Shedeur last season, obviously, great player, very, very accurate, the most accurate quarterback in college football, in my opinion. But my biggest takeaway was his toughness. Colorado's offensive line was not great last season, and they have lost, they're replacing guys with reason in that room. But my biggest takeaway is when Shedeur would get hit in the mouth, he would get right back up and go and sling it. Like, he would go and respond like that. He gets up, he's tough as shit. And that's my biggest takeaway watching Shedeur Sanders last season. Bill, Mary Kay Cabot, reporter over in Cleveland, reported that Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel will take the number 1 and 2 reps in Browns OTAs. How do you feel about this Browns quarterback room going into the season? Who will start week 1? Because I thought it was Joe Flacco's job to lose. Now I'm hearing it's Kenny Pickett. What do you think?
Well, I talked to Nate Zagura, the Browns color commentator on the radio, and he does a fantastic job. I've known him for years, and he kind of put that one on me last week. He said, I think Kenny Pickett's going to have the first crack at it, and I had the same reaction as you. I'm like, they're kind of viewing Flacco as if we need to go Joe Flacco, we will. But let's go with Pickett, who they did trade for, and teams don't trade for guys that they're not going to try. And so then it becomes Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders next. And they have a lot invested in Dylan Gabriel. They like Dylan Gabriel. The way Nathan put it to me was they liked him more than the draft complex liked him. The media liked him. So they're going to give Dylan Gabriel every chance. And then when Shedeur kind of fell into their lap, they get him at essentially a value pick like we would do in a fantasy football draft. If that guy falls, you have to take him, and that's what they did. And So it'll make for very interesting OTAs, very interesting training camp. But I think the whole circus thing, and I despise that notion that we're doing that with Shedeur. But I think that starts if he gets a chance to start. Then the attention will ramp up with him. But in the meantime, I think he can work and develop and try to get a shot at that role. By the way, Cleveland started 7 different quarterbacks the last 2 years. So if we think just one guy is going to start this year, I would caution people, then you really haven't lived in Ohio for more than 5 seconds. We kind of know how this is going to go.
Definitely. My final question for you, I debated this last week with several different guests. Who is the odd man out in the Cleveland Browns quarterback room? In my brain, I just don't see a scenario where they keep 4 quarterbacks on the roster, but I guess that's a possibility. Who's the odd man out in the Browns quarterback room if there is one?
I think there's a couple scenarios. I think they're going to keep both rookies. So I'm going to go with what Nathan told me, and it's in the article we ran last week, that it will start with Flacco. And then the other possibility to me is one of these guys pops in the preseason and they trade them to New Orleans or some quarterback needy team, where I could see Joe Flacco getting traded to the Saints for somebody that Tyler Shuck can watch. I could see Dylan Gabriel popping off and, he's a 3rd rounder. We don't want to lose him, so let's give him to somebody else, much like they got Kenny Pickett. So I'm going to say Flacco, but always an opportunity to trade there, one of these guys, especially if they perform well in the preseason.
Definitely. Let me throw this scenario at you. Kenny Pickett, he played for Kellen Moore last season in his system in Philly. My whole notion was if anybody is the odd man out, I thought it was Kenny Pickett just because of that Saints needing a quarterback with the Derek Carr retirement. They have Rattler and, like you mentioned, Tyler Shuck down there. What do you think about that? Is any possibility there? I know it's hypothetical, but
no, it's as good as any. And the reason why is it's good because of everything you just mentioned. There's familiarity factor, and if the Browns I guess it could work either way. If he's good, you get him while his stock's up. You get something for him. If he's not, then you can offer the Saints somebody that can help in that quarterback room, because the Derek Carr retirement was unexpected. But yeah, I mean, that's another possibility. The other one is, Shedeur gets cut, which I think I doubt it. I just doubt it partially because you don't cut somebody when you're selling that many. How can you cut somebody when you sell that many jerseys?
Yeah,
the Browns will turn on you at that point. And I'm not saying marketability should influence decisions, but you and I would both be naive to think that it doesn't sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Well said, Bill. Well said. And I can't wait. We're going to get closer. We're getting closer to OTAs. Can't wait to see how this Browns quarterback room plays out, because I don't think they're keeping 4. Something's going down. I can't wait to see how this plays out.